Hi, welcome back to the Good Deeds Podcast. My name is Nicole Quinn, and today I'm here with Diane Davidson to talk a little bit about preparing your home for sale. Diane is the authority on that, so she's going to give us some tips today, and I have some questions prepared. So, are you ready?
I can't wait. It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Okay, it's mine too, actually.
Okay, good.
Okay, so when you're preparing your home for sale, people don't know where to start. What are the best improvements to make as far as getting a return on your investment?
So, I don't want to call it smoke and mirrors, but sometimes spending money on infrastructure isn't the best investment. I'll give you an example. You know, it's wonderful if your windows are older to replace the windows and spend $40,000 if you're going to stay in your house for decades and decades and decades. But that $40,000 or even less is much better spent on things that people can see. In other episodes of the podcast, we've discussed that the first time a buyer sees a home that they buy is online. And things like new windows don't really translate.
Okay,
right?
yeah, that makes sense.
But beautifully painted rooms and hardwood floors or whatever those aesthetic improvements are, that coupled with the right pricing and good photography is what gets that buyer to want to see the home in person. So other than talking about new windows in the description, unless it's the headline, they're going to see pictures, going to see a price, and they're going to be that improvement is going to be lost.
Okay, so visual things.
Exactly. Yep.
Right.
Improving
So
aesthetic.
Paint, flooring.
Yeah, and honestly, Nicole, people, if there are lots of things that sometimes there's deferred maintenance, and we all live in our homes, and we mean to get around to painting, we mean to get around to replacing carpet, we mean to, and we don't. And so it can be overwhelming for a seller who's coming on the market, or someone's coming on the market, to think of the 36 things we suggest they do, and some of them are little things, right? And so they definitely feel a sense of accomplishment and huge improvement when they invest their time and their resources in 30 of those 35 or 36, whatever I just said, things. The problem is what a buyer sees is those 5 or 6 things that should be done. Or it just isn't 100%. I had a listing recently that was a beautiful older home, and it had pink carpet and coordinating walls.
Ooh,
and we had a
sounds
discussion. It's a lot, consistent. But my partner and I had a discussion. It's down in the Boston area. A discussion about whether to take up the carpet and redo the floors. But at the end of the day, the overall image of the home would have been kind of the same. So that would have been money not well spent.
So think big picture. Okay.
Complete picture, yeah.
Okay, understood. Now, I've always heard people talk about big improvements like kitchens and bathrooms and keeping those updated. To me, that sounds like something that's a lot bigger of an investment, but would you say those investments are more worth it than something that's like windows, for example, like you said?
Well, definitely better than windows.
Okay.
Okay, unless they're going to blade, unless the seal is compromised, they look foggy.
Okay.
But kitchens, there are ways to do things that are good bang for the buck.
Okay.
Right. So, is the latest greatest new kitchen a selling point? Absolutely. But if you're doing a kitchen to sell your home, you can do something that is aesthetically pleasing and current enough so that a buyer looks at it and thinks that they can certainly live with it for a while. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, for instance, white cabinetry is never out of style.
No.
By the way, so painting cabinets can be a really great bang for your buck.
Okay.
Backsplashes, there are things you can do for backsplash, which is the wall behind the wall
Right.
under the cabinets. Subway tile can be very cost effective.
Yeah.
You don't have to spend $14 a foot with high gloss from England. It can be, for instance, some of our local big box stores, home stores, sell American products for $1.32 a foot.
Okay.
So there are, or beadboard backsplashes or shiplap. So there are things that you can do that really achieve a certain look.
Okay.
And again, it's not smoke and mirrors, it's just being current.
Okay, that makes sense. So as far as changing things like backsplashes or even the paint, is there any merit to following current trends? Okay, so right now, as far as color schemes are concerned, where should people be looking as far as updating their walls?
Well, gray is kind of on its way out.
Okay. It makes me sad. I love gray.
You still have it if you're teaching about it. Anyway, so it's on its way out to, color is back in. Window treatments are back in.
Okay.
But you can also keep it sort of more universally appealing. And so shades of, there's sort of some gray beige tones
Yeah.
that are, I think are great, and they sort of straddle the tan gray thing, so whichever
Okay.
way somebody wants to go, because, when something is, if someone hasn't had a particular style in their home, even though it's maybe been around for a while, and maybe on its way out, it still feels fresh and new to that person, if that makes sense.
No,
So
it
someone
does,
who's been
yeah.
dying to paint their walls gray might really feel like they should in preparation for selling, but to have sort of more universal appeal, they might want to sort of straddle what's been around for a while with what's coming in.
Okay, that makes sense.
A couple of paint tips?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so a couple things. So first of all, Simply White is a white that I love.
Okay.
I found it years ago when we were building our house in 2008, and I picked out, whatever shade of white, 50 shades of white cabinets, right? So I picked out the shade that I liked, and I asked the kitchen person what that coincided with, because we had a lot of millwork that we put in,
Okay.
a lot of wainscoting, and it was Simply White, Benjamin Moore. So I started using that, and the nice thing about it is that I'm not pretending to be a designer, but the nice thing about Simply White is that whatever color you choose to put next to it, the white doesn't change. It doesn't get gray looking. It doesn't get tan or muddy looking. It's
So like
really good, and it's just has a little bit of warmth. Doesn't turn yellow.
Like a true neutral white almost?
Yes, it doesn't. Yep, it just stays true to itself. Yep,
That's good
and
to
it has a
know.
little bit of warmth.
That is good to know.
A couple of colors I like for walls are Benjamin Moore. I don't know if I can endorse any brand, but Ben Moore, Revere Pewter, and Edgecombe Gray.
Okay.
And Revere Pewter is actually a little bit grayer than Edgecombe Gray. Gray Owl is another one. So all of those kind of, when you look at them on the wall, you're not quite sure if they're in the beige family or in the gray family. And so I think those are good colors for someone who's selling their home. And they really receive, artwork and furniture and accessories pretty
Right,
well.
it gives you a lot of options.
Mhm.
So, to touch back on what you said about things being universally appealing, when you are preparing your home, should you be conscious that it's not going to turn off certain people, maybe like more minimalist, would you say?
So I think accessories are important. I think it's nice to, for a house to feel like a home.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're getting into sort of the whole staging thing, or.
Well, we were gonna get into that next,
Okay,
so I was sort of trying to bridge the gap, yeah.
Okay, so not necessarily minimalist, depending on
Okay.
the style of the home. That's not how a lot of people don't live that way.
Right.
So I think that you can strike a nice compromise, and I think it's okay to have personal things around, because people live with, there's a lot of, not to refute HGTV, but there are a lot of people who prepare properties who believe that there should be nothing personal, no photos, and people don't really live that way, or they say things like, if you have your photos, other people can't imagine living in the home. Well, they might not have the same couch or the same table or the same draperies, and they can imagine living in the home.
Very
So
true.
I think it just needs to have a good vibe.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, from the outside in, by the way. I think a lot of people pay attention to the inside of the home, and the first impression is the outside.
That's true.
Right, so they may see it on the internet, but when they drive up or walk up, if there are conditions that don't look great, that aren't appealing, and that might give them reason to doubt, we have an expression, people judge what they can't see by what they can see. So the condition of the outside is really, really important.
Very interesting, that's a good
And
point.
people, walk up whether it's someone who's a stager, property preparation specialist, or an agent, they walk up the walkway and they're not necessarily doing sort of the outside audit, if you will. So we've had people paint their front doors, paint their shutters, put up new shutters, certainly fix things like, if there's rot around, because nobody, first of all, it's not doing the home any favor to deteriorate further, but it's an investment. It's an investment in maintaining your home and investment in selling your home.
Okay, we've got the house staged, all of the paints are updated, everything looks good. Do you pay a professional photographer every time?
Always.
Always.
Always. There's no such thing as temporary photos that we replace with professional photos. We always have professional photography. And we do things, we use some digital enhancement. I'm kind of a stickler for things like those tags that are on lamp cords and things that, sometimes we miss something, or the photographer does, so we will digitally take care of things that were a little bit awry. If there was something, if there was a box under the bed and we didn't catch it. It really is, it's your only chance to make a first impression, and we take that very seriously.
What do you think about digital staging?
I think it's absolutely fine.
Okay.
I think that, as long as it's disclosed.
Okay.
It's not really much different than taking a property that has furniture in it when you first list it,
Mhm.
and then the sellers move out and take the furniture, and buyers come to an empty room.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Right.
That is true.
So
Okay.
people need, it's interesting because, I feel very strongly and have for a long time about preparing property, staging it, I hate that word, but furnishing.
What do you think is a better word?
Furnishing, that's preparing,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because staging sounds so
It sounds fake,
right?
yeah.
And the style of staging I prefer, that word again, but the style of preparation I prefer is something that looks like a home. Like if nobody's living there, you don't know it until you open the refrigerator and it's empty.
You know, that's interesting that you say that because when you said staging versus preparing, I've seen both and I feel like there's a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes you walk in and it feels so
Mhm.
unnatural and fake. On the topic of photos and preparing the outside of the home, do you retake photos depending on the season? Say the house is sitting on the market for 6 months. Do we start in the spring and then take fall photos? How do you approach that?
Absolutely. So first of all, one of the things that we offer is photography in advance that we archive, right? So if it's lush and green and beautiful in June or in July, we'll take exterior photos so that
Okay.
whenever whenever a house comes on the market, we have that to share.
Mm.
And if it's December or January, we look for the snow and have the winter wonderland and wait the blanket of snow on the front lawn. But it's very, very important for lead photos to be in the season. There was a listing recently that in June, well, there were two. One finally sold in June with snow still on the front lawn, in the lead picture in the multiple listing, which is what populates all of the websites that people like to use. And then there's another one with snow on the ground and through August or September when the listing finally was over. So yeah, that's not a good first impression.
Yeah, I've heard people say that you should always use summer photos, but I guess it just makes it look like it's been sitting on the market for a long time.
It can. Yeah, I think there are two schools of thought there
Yeah.
because they're pretty and they're green and everybody. I think and there isn't always timing doesn't always work out to take the winter wonderland photo. So
Right.
that's why we really try to get every season that we can. If we know a home is coming on the market sometime in the next year or two,
Right.
we'll do exterior photos for every season.
That
and
makes a
just
lot of
archive
sense.
them.
Yeah. So to get back to property preparation for a moment, a lot of people, I've heard people say you shouldn't change a carpet because what if the people that come in don't like that carpet? If you change the paint, they may not like that paint. What are your thoughts on that?
So first of all, I think it comes with a basic understanding that every house is not going to appeal to every person.
Right.
So the idea here is to make it as attractive to as many as you possibly can.
Okay.
Generally speaking, when we suggest somebody replace carpet, it's because it's dirty or worn out or something. So the buyer coming in might not have picked the exact same thing you picked to replace it with, but here's what they definitely wouldn't pick: dirty, worn out carpet, right? That's not what anybody
A
wants.
very good point.
And when you
Yeah.
think about it, we sell used properties. We sell properties, unless it's new construction, and even then, with new construction, big, huge developers, big production builders like Pulte and Toll Brothers, they furnish their models.
Mm-hmm.
And they furnish their models because people can relate to it when they see it upgraded and accessorized. And so if brand new construction is furnished and upgraded, they know, they're doing something right. They're selling millions of homes over in the last decades and decades. And so to sell that down to translate to the individual homeowner, of course that works.
Mm-hmm.
And of course it makes sense,
Right.
right? So there were a long time ago, in the early 80s, I was selling some waterfront condos just north of Boston. And the floor plans were in stacks, right? So the 03s all were the same and the 01s were all the same. So there was a 1-bedroom furnished model and a 2-bedroom furnished model.
Uh-huh.
And the designer was very talented and they basically had furniture that would, once we sold out a stack of 2 bedrooms, they could move it to another 2-bedroom floor plan.
Mm-hmm.
We would always sell out whichever stack was furnished.
Oh,
Whichever
wow.
the French model was. And I can remember saying to people, I know you can see through this, I know you're not buying it, but they were. Most people can't. the more you can, the less imagination that somebody has to exercise, the better off a seller is going to be.
Okay.
There's a Wall Street Journal article I love that talks about the exterior of your home, but I think it translates, it applies to the inside too, which is on average, homes sell for 7% more when they're properly prepared.
Wow.
So let's say you have a $500,000 home.
Mm-hmm.
That's $35,000. Usually that investment's going to be somewhere around $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000. that is a huge return. With all due respect to financial advisors, if you could get funds to perform that way for your clients, you're tired. But anyway, the point is, it's an investment. It's really not spending money, it's investing money, because the return is huge.
It's a great way to look at it. I like that. So just to wrap it up, if there's one thing that you could tell somebody that nobody else is going to tell them when they're preparing their home, the Diane Davidson tip.
I guess it always pays. It always pays to do as much as you have the resources to do. If there are things that, if your resources are limited, then kitchens are important, bathrooms are important, yes, but also think about the flow of the home and what people are going to see, so that you stand a better chance of them falling in love first and getting to something else later. Sometimes, for instance, a master bath, let's say everything else is done and it's a master bath. I used to call it enveloping. If they can see themselves in just about every part of the home and there are one or two things left for them to do, then you're probably okay.
Okay.
But leaving all the paint doesn't make sense.
Right. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you learned something. Please don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or follow us wherever you choose to listen to your podcast. We'll be back next week, probably with Bill, I would imagine.
I think so.
And that's all for today. Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.